Help support AMTV by becoming a patron, an AMTV staff member, and following us over on Twitter.
Hi there guys, it's Adam Martyn here, and welcome back to another video, and today we're going to be talking about ITV, and specifically about how ITV is losing quite a lot of money on some of its programmes. We all remember at the start of the year one of the most game-changing, most well-received, most impactful programmes of the year was dropped. That was Mr. Bates versus the Post Office, which of course told the story of the Post Office scandal and pretty much single-handedly or almost single-handedly reignited public interest into this whole situation. So much so that now actual major change has come from it. But despite all the plaudits, it's been watched by millions upon millions of people. But amazingly, it still lost ITV a fair bit of money. This is an article from the BBC. It says, Mr. Bates versus Post Office drama lost £1 million. That was said by the ITV boss, so let's get into it. ITV made a loss of about £1 million on its agenda-setting drama, Mr. Bates versus the Post Office, despite it being the UK's most-watched TV show of the year so far. That was revealed by the broadcaster. And doesn't that paint such a sad state of the television world right now, that despite all that attention, all those plaudits, it's still losing money? The 4-part drama, which aired in January, showed the human toll on hundreds of sub-postmasters who were wrongly prosecuted for false accounting and theft due to faulty software. It sparked an outcry and led to plans for new legislation to clear their names. That's what I mean. This was so impactful that actual real change was happening, which from a TV programme, obviously combined with the efforts from those campaigning for this in the first place, is quite incredible. The series has been watched by 13.5 million people to date, but Kevin Lygo, ITV's managing director of media and entertainment, said, Mr. Bates has made a loss of something like £1 million, and we can't continually do this. Broadcasters are facing big financial pressures and often rely on overseas channels or streamers buying the rights to show a programme to help recoup its budget. Now, I think we all know that making TV is expensive. We're under no illusions there that it's cheap by any means. Even the so-called cheap programs to make, which can often be game shows or programs with standing sets and things like that, they're still relatively expensive to put on and produce. And again, dramas can be tricky because even though this sort of story is very centric to British culture and what's going on, it doesn't necessarily have that same pull or interest overseas in certain territories, no matter how important it may be. Whereas something like a quiz show, there's a reason why programs like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire and such got, sold to at least 100 or so countries around the world. It's because they're relatively accessible. They can be adapted into a different country's format. They're not necessarily tied to a particular country's story. Last month, ITV said 12 foreign broadcasters had bought the Mr. Bates drama, but Mr. Lygo said it wasn't sufficiently appealing to foreign viewers to break even. Of course, some things are very profitable on the channel and some things aren't, he told the Voice of the Listener and Viewer Spring Conference on Wednesday, according to PA Media. But it's a challenge to be able to fund some of the things that aren't, obviously, of international appeal. We're hoping this may be because it caused such a furore here that maybe the sales will pick up. But there's no evidence of that just yet. If you're in Lithuania, 4 hours on the British Post Office? Not really, thank you very much. So you can see the challenge there. And again, I absolutely get what he's saying. Certain territories, I believe, out of those 12, 12 is more than I expected, to be fair, for something like this. I imagine the United States is one. I think it got a showing over there. Australia is probably one that usually takes up a lot of the drama that gets produced over here. New Zealand as well. I guess maybe primarily English-speaking territories are more likely. Maybe some of the Nordic ones as well probably pick this up. But he does make a good point. Certain nations, this post office scandal thing, this is going to hold little to no interest to them, despite the talent, in the writing, despite the talent on screen. For some people, it's just not that crucial. Another challenge for mainstream broadcasters is getting enough audiences to turn up on the night to watch a show, he said. 5 or 6 years ago, a programme like Mr. Bates would have been expected to attract a live audience of around 6 or 7 million. The first episode of Mr. Bates was watched by 4 million on the night, which is as good as you get now, he said. And he does make a good point. A lot of the overnights for a lot of programs do hold at this sort of 4 million range. There are some exceptions. I believe Gladiators was one when that launched. That sort of went to, 6 million overnight or something like that. But that was the return of a show that had been popular decades ago. I totally understand. And it was in that primetime Saturday slot, wasn't it? So, again, kind of makes sense in my eyes. But a lot of programs are struggling to get that. But let's just quickly go over to the Barb website, the website which tracks the ratings, and see how Mr. Bates did after 7 days. So here it was on the first week of January that this went out, and my God, this thing took over. It was broadcast Monday to Thursday that week, and I think all of them were available on ITVX as well. So if the first episode, it's saying, got 4 million live, that number eventually got bumped up to 9.2 million. So more than double its live audience either watched it on catch-up, like they had it recorded, or they went over to ITVX to stream it. Now, on the surface of it, and when you look at the rest of the numbers, 9 million, the finale even got more than 10 million viewers, which even in this day and age is quite rare. I think it speaks to this whole streaming landscape. The broadcasters are pushing for everyone to use their streaming services more. We know that. We've talked about that ad nauseum. But I do wonder how much, monetary value does this yield? Because ITVX, yes, it does have its premium service, but on the free service, it does run advertisements, so maybe that's where it's getting the revenue from. But it's making the point that despite the access to streaming platforms we have now, the commercial broadcasters in particular, such as ITV, are still battling this problem. They still need these overseas sales to basically break even. I mean, you think of how, if you watched it, you know how strong of a sort of drama it was and the talent behind it and all the plaudits it got. But the fact that it still lost £1 million and it was this roaring success, the most watched thing of the year, it does make me worry as well what this means for drama like this. It's not necessarily populist drama or period drama or anything like that. It's talking about a real thing. It's a docudrama in a way. It's taking a real event that happened that the public interest had mainly dipped. And yes, it did reignite it, but a lot of broadcasters genuinely, I think, wouldn't have touched this with a barge pole. And it makes me worry for the future of programs like Mr. Bates and the worry that they won't get made as frequently or even not at all. The article closes out by saying it went on to gather steam and viewers. ITV followed the rating success by announcing in February a drama about what it calls the biggest health scandal in British history, the contaminated blood scandal. Yes, and we did touch on that a little bit as well in a previous video. So I am glad that at the moment ITV are currently pushing for dramas like this. They're pushing for programs like this because it is important. But it does, as the guy said earlier, we can't continually do this. They can't continually make programs that will cause a loss of £1 million or more. I mean, just from a business standpoint alone, that's mental. And I've seen some people say, oh, well, it's down to the talent they chose for this show. They were all too expensive. I mean, I'd heard a story, I think it was my dad passed it on actually, saying that he read that some of the actors involved actually took less money because the producers told them, this way we can definitely get the program made. I don't have the article or where that was to back that up, but if that's true, then I think that shows the importance of the story that needed to be told here. And as television drama goes as a whole, these stories need to be told full stop. Because television still, whether you think it's dying or not, is still this key medium that we have alongside social media, alongside all the digital platforms and stuff. Television is still this very powerful, very accessible way to communicate stories that otherwise get lost or were prominent and then fade into the background. Because, before this aired at the start of this year, let's be real, no one was really talking about the post office scandal anymore. It had sort of blown up and then was sort of left to quietly get on with it in the background. Proceedings were very slow, not much was happening. So this, in a way, was almost like a gift from ITV that they put this out, because it not only reignited that story in the mainstream public eye, but it actually got things done. Obviously, I don't think that was their intention, from the outset, we're going to spark major change, but that was the byproduct of it, which is fantastic. So I just hope that, these losses don't continue. I mean, the blood scandal, again, that was such a big thing here in the UK. Would that have more legs internationally? I don't know. I think it would probably sell to the usual suspects, that we'll probably sell it to the USA, we'll probably sell it to Australia, those territories that we have a good link with when it comes to selling our drama. But really, even though it is probably going to be well produced with great talent and it's going to be quite emotional to watch, I mean, at the moment, I can't see it being sold to more territories than Mr. Bates is, but I could be wrong. I'd like to be proven wrong. But I want to know what you think. Let me know down in the comments below. Were you quite surprised by this news that Mr. Bates lost £1 million despite its success? Do you think ITV are going to wind down on the dramas? Everyone complains about ITV showing too many game shows, too many reality things. But I mean, again, if they're generating money and they're relatively cheaper to produce than something like Mr. Bates, then I guess from a business sense, whether it's right or wrong, that's what they're going to plow on with. But let me know all your thoughts about that in the comments down below. I'd love to read it and hear what you have to say. In the meantime, if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like on it. It does help us out. And subscribe to the channel as well. We'd love to have you aboard. In the meantime, I've been Martyn from AMTV. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next time. Thank you to our patrons for helping to support the show, and a special thank you to Macra, Ethan Carberry-Holt, Bruce Danton, Globe of Reviews, Derek Chambers, Shaun Knock, Daud Khan, Liam De-Maine, Trev Hughes, AJ Mac 200017, Deck KP20, Simon Harrison, Evan Hart 41, Jen, Ted Elliott, Tim Ripley, Mr. Eurovision 1986, and Robert Oliphant, our AMTV staff members.